Hey everyone, it's Richard Metal Fan here, bringing you guys a 2022 album review. I should have done this about a few weeks ago, but I'd forgotten all about it. But hey, better late than never. Today we're going to be talking about the latest album from one of my favorite bands. And as you can see below the title, we're going to be talking about the new Behemoth album entitled Opvs, Contra, Navtram, which was released back on September 16th, 2022 under Nuclear Blast Records. Now, Behemoth, I don't really need to go much into detail with these guys. Been around since the early 90s. Originally, they kind of started off as a black metal band, but over time, they kind of like shifted into more of like, kind of like a blackened death metal sound. And their more latest couple albums are kind of like avant-garde, and I know they kind of experiment a little bit. You know, some people might prefer one era of Behemoth or another one, but I pretty much dig everything that these guys have put out, and they've pretty much been one of my all-time favorite bands, and pretty much been kicking it since 1991 in Poland, and they're one of the biggest bands in extreme metal in general. And these guys have been killing it for like 3 decades, and ever since then, since their 2014 release, The Satanist, which in my opinion is still my favorite Behemoth album, they've gotten a lot of hype. And this album follows up their previous album, which came out in 2018, called I Loved You at Your Darkest. And it pretty much expanded their Kazakh style a little bit more. But here we are with album 12, Opvs, Contra, Navtram. Does it live up or exceed what I Loved You at Your Darkest has? In my honest opinion, I think it definitely has. I think Nurgle and the boys just really stepped it up with their freaking musicianship. I just talk about like the vocals. Like Nurgle definitely has like that voice. Like once you hear it, it's like, yeah, this is Nurgle. It just sounds really fucking extreme. And his guitar playing along with Seth's, both of them come up with some really great riffs, and the riffing on the guitar work on this album in general was fucking great. The bass wise, Orion's bass definitely is audible in the mix. You could definitely hear it. And the drumming, I don't even know how to describe Inferno's drumming. Like one of the best drummers pretty much in the extreme metal, black metal, death metal, whatever you want to classify Behemoth as. So without further ado, let's dive into this album track by track, since I rambled on for about 2.5 minutes. Now, starting things off is Post God Nirvana. Now, this is kind of like a very cinematic, kind of like opener a little bit, and it serves like as a little prelude, and I think it pretty much sets the whole mood and vibe for the album, which leads into Maluria Vulgata, probably butchered that, which is just sheer brutality all the way through. And it's only 2 minutes long. It is a fucking assault to the ears, full of furious drumming and powerful screams, and it's a really great opening to kick off the album, and a great sign for what we're going to expect next. Next 2 songs I want to talk about are The Deathless Sun and Of My Herculean Exile. These are really great songs and are prime examples of what Behemoth sound like now, and just as really great slabs of like extreme metal, yet with almost kind of like a little bit of melodic hooks. And then Of My Herculean Exile is, of course, the first single from this album, and it's very mid-paced, straight to the point, but I just love like the blast beat outro, which brings the track home with just a thunderous style. Next up is Neo Spartacus. Now, this song almost has a little bit of a punk rock vibe to it when I first heard it, and it also has a little bit of like the proto black metal and hardcore, and also very simplistic energy to the power chord and a very sick double kick attack. Disinheritance. Now, this, in my opinion, is like the album's like least kind of like bumpy road, or like the bumpy road, I should say. Hey, it sort of like redeems itself hugely with like a great tempo change in the bridge, and the climax is with a very wall of like drums, screams, and everything about it. And that's the thing about Behemoth's writing, is at this moment they pretty much know how to make the music that goes into a journey, and pretty much almost kind of like sets a great cinematic kind of story behind it. Next up is Off to War. Now, this is a pretty appropriate title song if there's ever one. It has a brief introduction of horns, and then the track's pace begins. It's a very up-tempo song with a kind of like a halftime feel in the choruses, and a nice like musician touch, and it's a good example of like Behemoth songwriting thing. And then the drumming from Inferno is just nothing to be overlooked. He's just a really insane drummer, just ridiculously fast and in control. Versus next up is Once Upon a Pale Horse, I should say. Another sick song, and then Thy Becoming Eternal. I dig this. Another great song. Like, all these songs are pretty good. And then we close things out with Versus Curses, which is a really great way to end this album. And this pretty much continues the band's tradition of like having a very great epic outro song. And Behemoth sounds to places they've never been to before, with the piano and clean vocal led intro leading into a thunderous kind of like song. Now overall, Versus Curses by Behemoth, another good album, great follow-up to I Loved You at Your Darkest. So if I give this on the score, I'm going to give Opus Contra Navtram by Behemoth a solid 9 out of 10. So yeah, that's my review of the new Behemoth, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it, and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal.